Here we are, Starks. We're back.
All right, week 2 already, baby.
You know, it's almost funny because people were asking about when the second episode would drop.
Yeah.
And when I say people, I mean my little brother.
All I'm saying is, Williams, the amount of autographs that I had to turn down this week, while it was a lot, the amount of autographs that I had to turn down on your behalf, I was like, no, listen, Williams is a busy man.
Starks, look, you don't have to make me try and feel better, because, I know I'm a disappointment. Not everything's perfect.
Williams, if you're a disappointment, then none of us have a chance.
My goodness. This kid. Anyway, this week I'm kind of taking the charge. I'm kind of the main host. As it's me, Williams, the dirty dog. And as always, my co-host is here.
Starks, the silly goose.
And so here we are.
Yep, here we are.
I'm excited to be here. Before we start, I want to say we really love and appreciate Stark's sister, Kelsey.
Mm-hmm.
She has done so much for... If you noticed our cover design with the dog and the goose, true. I want you to notice, for one, that the dog has a mustache, like me, and the goose has this blonde tuft of hair, like Starks, except Starks doesn't have just a little blonde tuft. It's actually a full head of blonde hair that Starks has.
Give me a few years and maybe I'll just have a blonde tuft. Which brings us to our next point. Kelsey is actually going to be our sponsor for this week, Williams. And how is Kelsey exactly sponsoring us?
Well, by being awesome. Duh.
Of course. Well, she also feeds us dinner, too.
Kelsey's just one of the sweetest people you're ever going to meet.
Mm-hmm.
And she has... Yeah, go ahead, Starks.
Go ahead, Williams.
She has these books that she wrote herself. They're children's books known as Zoe the Zombie. And they're quite stellar. I've taken a look at them myself. If you thought our cover was good, the artistry in the Zoe the Zombie books, even better.
Mm-hmm.
Even better.
Mm-hmm.
And not only is she fantastic with the books, I mean, what she's able to do to my hair, she gives some of the best haircuts ever. There's a reason why she's booked out like she is.
It's true. It's true. She's quite busy with all her hobbies. So that's our quick shout out for Kelsey. Look her book up. You can find it on Amazon. Obviously, we're reaching millions of people at this point, so you better hurry because they're going to sell out.
While supplies last.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty sure she's made several thousand, and they're not going to make it through the night. So you better hurry up and click on that link. Get over there right now. And mention us or something if you want. It doesn't really matter. We don't have an actual, deal. But if you want to be, in the reviews, I heard about this on my favorite podcast.
Dogs and gooses. Yeah. We would appreciate the shout out.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Starks, something that I realized that we didn't quite talk about in the last episode was actually how we met. We mentioned that we met.
Okay.
But we didn't mention how... I don't know if you want to contribute to that.
No, we can run it. Whatever. You're the host, man.
All right, well, say something about it. Do you remember?
I do remember. Well, so we both served a church service mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And my first area was Texarkana, Arkansas side of... I was going to say Texarkana, Arkansas side, and Williams was Texarkana, Texas.
Right, yeah.
So we were in the same district, and I remember I met Williams, and I thought he was pretty cool. And then we were at a ward event, and he had picked up a guitar and started playing Folsom Prison Blues by Johnny Cash. And I recognized the song, and that's when I was like, maybe this Williams guy's a stud.
And I remember us talking a little back and forth, these are the words, or these are the words,
yeah.
Kind of debating on little words. That's how you build a solid friendship.
Absolutely.
Around Johnny Cash.
That's fair. That's a fair point.
Is there any other way to build a friendship that lasts?
I can't think of one. Every friend that I've had that's lasted in any sort of meaningful way has at least talked about Johnny Cash once.
Yeah. See, so there's something there.
100%.
Something there. So today... Well, I suppose I should preface this with yesterday I watched The Dark Knight Rises. And I don't know about you, Starks, but every time I watch that film, I get inspired. I mean, any of the Dark Knight trilogy, to be honest with you.
Really quick, Williams, I'm going to quick pause you. I don't know if you're about to introduce our
I'm leading into it. Leading into it.
Okay, but I'm just going to say, I'm just going to remind everybody, this is how this works. So Williams is the host. I'm going to be the co-host. But what happens is Williams has picked a topic. I don't know what it is yet. So, I'm about to find out, and then we will be discussing this topic with whatever questions in whatever way Williams so desires in his dirty dog mind.
And it's a mind like no other. Let me tell you, you don't know what's going to happen.
It's true. I'm not sure. I'm kind of thinking this week we're going to talk about underwear and recent fads, but
we can only hope.
We'll see.
So every time I watch the Dark Knight trilogy, I get inspired. Starks. I think as everyone should, because they're just fantastic films, thought-provoking. Something that I realize: Batman is one of the most prepared people I've ever seen ever. And I thought, I need to be more like Batman. I think we need to be more like Batman, Starks.
Okay.
We just need to be prepared for whatever comes up. And especially with this podcast, we're about to stumble upon all sorts of fame.
Well, of course.
Fame, fortune, everything. And so we got to keep in mind what's going to come with that. And it's not going to be too long before some Hollywood executive is knocking on our door and asks us to create some sort of TV show.
Well, here's the thing, though. When that happens, we got to turn them down. I've seen all the movies. You and I would wind up fighting. One of us would become a superstar, and the other one becomes a bum. And I don't want to be the one that becomes a bum. Looking at the two of us, I know which one of us would be the superstar.
Starks, to be a bum, you have to have facial hair.
You're darn right. I guess it would be me who would be the star then.
So don't feel as though like you'll get the short end of that stick. Like, I'm willing to accept, abject poverty.
Williams, I'm just gonna point this out right now. You can't be living on the streets, Williams, because if you do, what are you gonna do? Give me food? Oh, not that. That has gluten. Please, something else. Give me a steak.
It's gonna be harder. I won't last long.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, Williams. You can't do it. You can't do it.
Start.
Let's just say no to the Hollywood executives. No. Keep riding our wave of fame all the way to the top.
But there's no consequence because they're asking everyone now. I mean, have you seen the TV shows they've been coming out with lately, Starks?
Yeah, that's true. But that's why we need to be strong. Put our standards out there for the world.
Well, that's kind of too bad because my topic today is what sort of TV show we would create.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of a... So I hope you're feeling creative, and if not, that's really too bad.
Yeah, that's true. That is too bad. Well, one way or another, I'll tell you what, I'll get over it.
Yeah, because, yeah, so that's the way it is.
All right.
So, I think probably first and foremost, we'd have to figure out what sort of genre of TV show we're looking at here.
Okay, well, first and foremost, let's decide who plays us. Are we going to go with the originals of last time? Christian Bale?
Well, we don't have to be in it. It's our TV. We're the directors.
Oh, we're the directors.
We can be in it.
So we're making a show.
We're making a show.
It's not about us.
It can be. I mean, that'd be the most interesting sort of show,
well, of course. But let's think about if you and I were to direct a show, what would we direct? I mean, you asked the question, so I'm just...
No. This can... It's open for contribution here, Starks. Don't feel as though, you can't pitch in.
Well, then why did you tell me not to pitch in before we started the show?
It's more for added dramatic effect. I'm going to be real honest.
You said, Starks, listen, I'm the star. Talk as little as possible.
I do like the sound of my own voice.
Well, I like the sound of your voice too, so you're good.
Yeah. But I hear enough of it as it is.
That's fair. You do talk all the time.
Every morning when I get up in the mirror, I just start talking to myself.
Absolutely.
You know how it is.
Maybe that's the show we should make. Maybe we should make a show about a man who's going crazy, and he talks to himself. I think they've made a bunch of shows about people going crazy, though.
Well, I mean, who really isn't going crazy in the world? It's more of a reality TV show.
That's true. That's very true. So we would make a show about a man who's sane.
I think that was already made. It's called The Joker.
Well, fair enough. You got me there.
You know, just facts. So, I mean, we got so many options, Starks.
Mm-hmm.
Sitcom. We could do like a competition show. Although we'd have to create some sort of nuance. I feel like they're kind of reaching the end of those. When they start having these TV shows where they're like, is this cake or is this not cake? I think we have to start asking whether or not they've run out of ideas in that vein.
So, are we going to go... Here's the thing. We can go two different ways.
Mm-hmm.
We can follow the formula that's always worked, which is like, you could always do a good old solid detective show.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And those formulas, they're great. Like, you have a guy... And it depends on how serious you want to be. Lately the comedies have been popular. We mentioned Psych in the last episode. You've got Brooklyn
The only
Nine-Nine,
show that you seem to watch, but
Monk. Well, I mean, it's not anime, so it's kosher.
Don't do anime dirty like that.
Williams, anime did itself dirty by existing.
I should have asked the question: what anime are we going to create?
Well, that's the first point. Is we won't be creating an anime.
Whoa! Did you see that? How he just asserted his dominance and imposed his will?
We don't have any cameras, so they heard it.
Oh,
you silly! I mean, you dirty dog.
You silly.
I got really confused there for a minute.
Didn't know who you were.
Yeah, no, it's this whole talk of anime. I don't even like to talk about it. It's interesting though because almost all of my friends like anime. Like,
I know that's so silly to me that you
they don't like
refuse.
it. I guess like I have some friends who are huge into it, but almost all of them have a series that they really like that they recommend.
And guess who hasn't tried any of them?
Williams, once again, we talked about this last time. It's called asserting dominance and imposing your will.
And
that's what I'm doing. I'm asserting dominance, imposing my will, and refusing to watch shows that aren't worth my time.
Listen, I can assert my dominance, impose my will, and decide to not have any more joy. But why would you want to do that?
Williams, that's exactly what it sounds like you're doing with anime.
Starks. Sweet, naive Starks.
Well,
you are among the silliest of the gooses.
Well, I mean, we are on the...
Not the silliest.
I am the representative of all silly gooses here. So,
that's fair.
So we've established it's not going to be an anime.
Fine.
Like I said, we've got two routes we can go. I see either detective show, or something tried and true. You've got detective shows, you've got rom-coms, you've got game shows, or we could try and come up with something new and exciting. The question is, and the hard part with coming up with something new, is how do you come up with something new, Williams? What could we come up with that hasn't really been seen?
Well, that's an excellent question. I mean, we could take a newspaper, put it on a dartboard, and just throw darts and combine words that we learned right? Until we finally get something that resembles something.
Yeah?
Call it inspiration.
That is a possibility. I don't know exactly if it'll get us exactly where we need to get, but maybe that's how we'll plan our next episode.
I see Starks with a dartboard. Something will happen.
We'll figure it out.
I'll get an idea.
Yeah. So, first off, I think we need to discuss a couple of different ideas.
All right.
And see which one has the most viability. That's what I'm thinking. And Williams, can I just say, looking across from you right now, with your mustache and your whole, masculine persona, I immediately think of Magnum P.I.
I've not watched Magnum P.I.
But you're familiar with what I'm talking about.
I'm familiar with the idea, yeah. Isn't it about, it's a police show?
It's a private investigator from the 80s.
I guess that's what the P.I. stands for.
Yeah, yeah. Me and my mom used to watch it. But he's basically this kind of ladies' man who's ex-military, he's got a phenomenal mustache like my man Williams over there.
Too kind.
So the question is, Williams, if we're going to make said TV show, how are we going to make it stand out? What's going to make it different from the other TV shows?
Well, first and foremost, we're making it.
So, you got a point there.
Lay the groundwork. I think what we got to do, yeah, I think we can take these old formulas, but I think what's going to set apart is just our own brand of humor. I think. And, obviously we're not too into the really raunchy scenes necessarily, or probably not going to be a lot of swearing or stuff like that. So maybe in that way it'll stand out on its own.
In terms of it'll attract more of like a family-friendly audience, like
yeah,
a cleaner
something like that. Yeah,
type audience. I could see that. So then we inject humor into it. So tell me, Williams, basic storyline, just off the top of your head, what's this cop's background? He looks like Williams. He has a mustache.
So you're saying
rugged,
that I'm basically
masculine man.
What would I do if I were the private eye or the police officer?
Well, this is our TV show, so we need to come up with a backstory.
Oh man, what's the most rugged thing I can think of? This guy was born a lumberjack, and he was out there with his dad chopping down logs, and one day a log accidentally smacked him on the head, knocked him unconscious, fell into the water, got swept downstream.
That's not very masculine.
Hold on. Yeah, I mentioned lumberjack, and then he ends up in the desert.
Yeah, wait, I'm going to
pause
pause you real quick. You said he was a lumberjack, and you said you were trying to find something most masculine, but he's a lumberjack who got defeated by one of his own logs. That's not very masculine.
His dad cut down the tree with the log. You gotta follow the story.
So he gets defeated by both his aged father and a log. Williams, I'm sorry, we're gonna have to go back to the drawing board for this one, unless you fix something in the desert. Also, this river oddly ends in the desert.
I know that was part of the thing, but so he's in the desert, and all of a sudden, this rugged rancher comes up. He's like, "Hey, son." It's not his dad, but
he says son.
Old rugged rancher, yeah.
It's
against call him son. And he gets over there. He takes him in under his wing, makes him one of his ranch hands, becomes super tough that way. But then he realizes that he's getting older and he wants to see the city for the first time. And so with this rugged lumberjack ranch hand background, he goes to the city. And while he's there, he's just stopping at the convenience store to get something. Maybe something for his mustache, some sort of product. Some beard oil or something. This guy's trying to rob the place, and he stops him. And the policemen who come to respond, they're like, "Wow, you're super awesome. You need to join the force." He's like, "Perfect, I need a job anyway."
So, here's what I'm hearing so far.
How about that?
We have this guy who's kind of this country bumpkin type of dude who's really rugged, masculine, and he comes to the city and he sees like an entirely different type of people.
Oh yeah.
And he gets put in a situation. Obviously, you have to insert some existential crisis into this. What should we name him? He's named. What's his name, Williams?
The most rugged name I can think of off the top of my head.
Which is
John.
John. All right. So his name is John. They'll call him Big John. And then the theme song will be Big Bad John.
Oh my goodness.
Whatever. Yeah. So the theme song
Not just the sausage guy, but he also does country western songs.
Yeah. So we'll name him, the show will be called Big Bad John, except he's a good guy, so it's kind of a play on words. But is it Big Bad John or is it Big John?
The name of the song is Big John.
Yeah. And then they say Big Bad John. Yeah. So, here's what I'm thinking. We have Big John.
Okay, yeah.
And Big John is this country bumpkin who decides he needs to leave home. And this is, once again, this is still kind of a trope.
Right.
But we got to build some kind of a story for Big John, right?
100%.
So Big John is going to be here, and he lives in this country. Let's say he gets hit by a log, flows down the river into a desert, meets an old ranch hand, and then something happens that I don't fully understand. I think he falls in love with the rancher's daughter.
Ooh.
Now, either the rancher's daughter breaks his heart, and he needs to find somewhere to find purpose.
That sounds
Or
realistic.
the rancher and his daughter. Yeah, that's a fairly realistic play, isn't it? Or
Is there
the,
such a thing as true love? That actually works out?
I've heard about it. Never experienced it myself, but I've heard it's cool. So either the rancher's daughter breaks his heart, or the rancher and his daughter are killed in a tragic accident that he goes to investigate in Los Angeles, California.
Is it possible to do both?
Maybe over the course of the show. We'll table that one for now.
Okay.
Wait, actually, you got to pick one, Williams. What do you think? Tragic accident or broken heart, and he goes away to find purpose, and then he goes to Los Angeles on a whim.
I kind of like the second one, because we both know love doesn't exist. No? Otherwise, we would have found it.
Okay, so here's what we're talking about then. So, rancher's daughter, he's deeply in love with her. She breaks his heart, and he realizes there's nothing left for him in the desert.
Not even the stream.
So basically, our first episode is just going to be a love episode, and then at the very end, she's going to break his heart, and he's going to go looking for meaning and purpose, and he'll go, surprisingly, to Los Angeles, California.
Okay.
Goes to Los Angeles, California. He's there. He knows nobody. He's seeking purpose. And what does he do? He stops a robbery. While there he realizes that Big Johnny's a pretty big guy, especially for these Californian people. Whatever you say, he's probably like, I don't know, 6'3", couple 100 pounds.
Yeah, well,
couple of 250, 280.
Yeah.
He's a big old boy. And so then he starts thinking, I could be a police officer. And so then we have this whole fish out of water vibe here.
Oh, I'm digging it, Starks. I think that it has to be a big heartbreak in the first episode to really,
100%.
really drive him.
There has to be no chance that they're getting back together.
Yeah.
Except for in season 6 when people start to get a little bored, then we'll kind of have her reintroduce and have this will they, won't they thing going on.
Whoa, spicy stuff. Wow. Goodness. And yeah, that's not... That could have some merit. I don't know. I feel like it will need a little bit of a different love interest between that, and so he kind of has to go like, oh, should I go back to the girl who left me, or should I stay with this girl who?
So he finds some other girl who's from Los Angeles, who shows him the ways of
the city
and what makes that life enjoyable.
Oh yeah, and he's kind of learning as he's going along, but he's not quite sure if he likes it enough.
Okay, I'm on board with this idea, except we have to have a point in like the later seasons where he looks back at the man he is and the man he's become, and he's got to have this existential moment of he's like, I am not living up to, like, kind of a darker period where he's like, I'm not living up to who I should be. Because we all go through those things in life. Like,
oh, yeah, question yourself.
Like, well, there's also, like, periods in time where you're just like, I need to be better. And so, for this guy, maybe he's got these back home values and he's got certain things, right is right, keep my word, so on and so on. And maybe over time he gets tempted by something or other and does something, like, as a police officer who solves a lot of crime and who, takes names and whatnot. He's got to do some things that are a little shadier or whatever, and he kind of looks back and he remembers his roots and who he really is as a person, and then it kind of comes back around.
Okay, yeah, I'm digging that. I think we got a real solid thing going. My question is, why is it always Los Angeles?
So Los Angeles is a big city that everyone recognizes, and I intentionally didn't pick New York.
Well, yeah,
because I was like,
all the Marvel movies.
Yeah,
they got enough heroes.
Yeah.
In New York.
And also, I'm going to be honest, this is the second time in a row we've talked about Psych in our things, and we've already mentioned it today. But I just immediately thought of Santa Barbara. And then I was like, well, that's in California. I think it's by Los Angeles. Let's go with Los Angeles.
Wow. What's that one TV show I watch again? Where did that take place? My TV show has to take place there. Because it's the only place that must be.
If you wanted it to be where Attack on Titan takes place, then maybe you should have stepped in sooner.
It's a fictional place.
Well, not my fault.
not my fault either. I didn't write it.
What? Attack on Titan or this? Because you kind of wrote this. I mean, we technically haven't written any of it.
Yeah, so I haven't written either Attack on Titan or this.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So what's your next question, Williams? Are we just going to continue planning this out? Do we look out for other things?
I kind of like that. However, it feels like... I'm not going to say copy-paste.
Yeah, it kind of is copy-paste.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a mixture because I don't know of another cop show that's like that.
Right.
Usually you get more of the reverse in cop shows where there's some, like, cop who is like, he's a rugged, tough guy, but he's been on the force in New York for like 25 years.
Right.
And then they take him to this small town and then strange things start happening. And he's got to step up and use his superior police training and all that stuff. You get a lot of that. You don't get a lot of country bumpkin comes to the city and...
Maybe not in the police aspect.
But yeah, not in the police aspect, but you see that in a lot of like rom-coms or different things. I saw a show with like Matthew McConaughey with that once, I think.
All right.
Yeah. I don't remember.
I don't know. I don't think I've actually seen the movie with Matthew McConaughey in.
I don't honestly remember even if I saw the whole show, but it seems like I just picture Matthew McConaughey getting off a bus in New York City.
As the country bumpkin?
Yeah, as like a country bumpkin, yeah. So, tropes definitely overused. So, what were you saying? You don't like it, that it's copy-paste.
I'm not saying that I don't like it, but I'm... Like, let's explore maybe another option before we settle on that.
Okay, you might call me evil for this.
Oh my goodness.
But this is something that I've always wanted to do.
Oh, no.
Okay, here's what we do. One or both of us author a book.
Okay.
A book series about any number of things. Now, there's got to be some very key events in this book. There has to be either a love triangle or a significant character has to either die or almost die at the end. One of those two things need to happen. Most likely we'll have a bit of both, right?
Oh, wait. Ideally.
But, so here's what we're going to do. Write this book series. Write it out. You got to make it a really good and interesting book series.
Are you telling me to write this series?
Well, of course, Williams. You can write the book series. I'll help manage the movie. I'm coming up with the general ideas. You got to fill in all the blanks, Williams. What do you want from me? Hey, this is your topic, not mine. That means you got to do all the follow through on this.
Well, listen, I can't. I could do some follow through structure.
Wait.
However, I think you want me to do a lot more legwork than what you're willing to do.
Wait. All I hear is, Starks, I want you to put in more effort. And that sounds an awful lot like nagging.
And I'm waiting for you to put in that effort.
Well, that's awfully silly. Anyway, after you finish writing these books, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make a TV show that is going to follow those books exactly. Like, so well. Better than any other TV show has followed a book series. Doesn't matter how long it has to be for the TV show to get there. We're going to find the funding. We're going to make it so it's just word for word. Maybe not word for word, but we'll make it really, really close. Detailed. Last book. Last 10 minutes of the show.
Please tell me he dies. The main character.
The main character, so that's why I said we have to have one of those two things. The main character who survived in the books dies in the TV series.
Yeah.
Or love triangle, where they picked, example, Hunger Games, Katniss, Peeta, and Gale. Katniss would pick Gale instead in the end. So like you would pick the opposite person.
Those.
You never did?
No.
Oh, so that didn't make any sense.
Well,
basically, the love triangle, the love person they picked, which is kind of a hinging moment in the whole story, they picked the other person. And so it will be something that everyone knows is like spot on the entire time. And then the very last episode, the very end of it, after all this build, you switch it in a very significant way. That's something that I feel like would be super fun to do.
I think that'd be a blast. I've always wanted to write a book where in the very first chapter, it's really giving you this great character, this great protagonist. And you're just like, wow, this is going to shape up to be a great story. and then he just dies within that first chapter, and then it just switches to some guy who you're like, oh, he's kind of crummy.
You need to read Brandon Sanderson's books.
Everyone says that.
He doesn't necessarily.
The size of those things?
Yeah, I've read them. He doesn't necessarily do that, but what he does do is he'll bring in characters, and you like kind of start to get invested, and they just die. He kills them, and you're like, what? So,
I appreciate that so much. My favorite play, Hamlet. I love that Shakespeare play. You haven't read Hamlet, have you?
I have, but it was a long time ago for junior high, and I probably only read about half of it.
Right. Spoiler alert, everyone. So if you haven't heard the ending or read the ending of Hamlet or don't know it, I mean, you're kind of a few hundred years late on that whole thing. It was published a long time ago. But everyone dies in the end. And it's very poetic. And there's one guy left to tell the story. And it's not Hamlet. It's not the main characters. It's like Hamlet's friend. And it just adds so much more weight to the story. You're like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So I do find beauty
in the switch, or well, I guess in characters being consequences.
Yeah, consequences. And I feel like that's only really punctuated in stories usually by a character dying.
That's fair. Yeah, I'm a big fan of like allowing characters to have consequences. Obviously, I'm also generally more of an optimistic, like happy ending type of guy.
I like poetic endings.
But so here, I think there's a key amount. Books where everyone dies, if it's not done right, make me sad. But books where everyone lives doesn't seem realistic.
Nor is it
all the main characters.
Yeah.
It
doesn't really happen.
Yeah. So, okay. So Williams, how are we gonna? So I just gave you what I think we should do. Book series, follow the book series, yada yada yada. You don't like the copy paste. Do you have an idea, or are you just kind of like being critical with no reason?
Well, Starks, I always have a reason. Whether or not you know the reason, completely different story.
Sounds to me like you don't know the reason.
No, I think that's a good idea, but there are just a lot of gaps. You know, it's more like, oh, we got to write a book in order to make the... You know, when the Hollywood executives contact us, we're not going to have the kind of time to just start writing a book.
That's where you're missing the whole point.
You got 5 months to produce this TV show.
Wait, that's where you're missing the whole point. Start now, for Pete's sakes. You got at least a year. You can churn out like 6 books before then.
But you know, a year's only so long, Starks. Like you get a few books, but in order to get the full book series, which we're going to need to have done so we can put a good end on the TV series, that takes time. I'm not Brandon Sanderson where I can just pound out these ridiculously long books in ridiculously short periods of time. Not everyone can be him.
But you could be.
I could be. However, I'm going to assert my dominance, impose my will, and not be.
Well, I have to respect it. Alright, Williams, you dirty dog. Here's what I'm thinking. You have a dirty dog, and you have a silly goose, and they become unlikely friends.
I'm liking it.
Yep. Despite there being 2 waging factions. One of silly gooses, the other of dirty dogs. Also, real quick pause here. Anyone who's listening to this, if this sounds unplanned, it's because it is. We're just making it up as we go. So, I hope it's entertaining, our complete lack of structure and our conversation. But if not, too bad for you.
Move on to the next episode.
Yeah.
If it's out.
Yeah. If it's not out, cross your fingers, tough it up, listen to this, and enjoy it. Yeah. And wait for the next one very anxiously. Like we know you have been. It's okay. Don't worry.
We're trying to do it every week or so.
Yeah, that's the goal.
It won't be too long.
Yeah. Just make sure you eat between then and now.
Please.
Not eating for an entire week, not healthy.
We only have so many fans right now. If one of you died, I don't know what would happen.
Yeah, then there would be one less of you. Not to mention that many of you are fans, friends and family. So
it'd be even more tragic.
Yeah, it'd be a little sad. So Don't forget to eat and drink too, mind you.
Please.
But anyway, back to the show. That was your little intercession. So, a dirty dog and a silly goose. What's going to be their main trial? They're surrounded by
people.
No, can't be people. I'm trying to think of another
animal.
Yes. Something that's like kind of despicable.
Well, a wolf would be too close to a dog.
No, yeah. Well, a wolf would be too close to a dog.
A platypus.
Well, we like platypuses though.
Okay, well.
What's an animal that's just kind of annoying in general?
All of them.
Oh, I'll tell you what. The chickens.
That's a joke. Oh,
chickens are so stupid, but they are delicious. So
yeah.
I guess it's hard to hate chickens for that reason. Is there another type of animal that's really stupid and annoying?
Dodos, but they're dead.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm trying to think. Well, what animal do I hate the most? I was just thinking about this the other day, actually, and I thought I had an answer. I would probably say, well, we can't say mosquitoes because those
it's a
more like insects.
Yes,
but they're animals too.
Well,
you know?
they're more like insects because they are insects. we could go with some kind of a bird, like a.
Why do you hate the birds? You're the goose.
I am the goose, but there are some people that give us birds a bad name.
You want to say vultures? I mean, those
no,
are kind
of... we'll come up with it. We'll come up with it later.
Okay.
There's not enough. We'll fill you guys in on the next episode before we introduce our title or something. Okay.
Once we've created the actual pilot of that TV show.
Yeah. So a dirty dog and a silly goose form an unlikely alliance in which they wind up facing this adversary of thousands of annoying animal here. Also, for those of you listening, feel free to send suggestions. We need your help. And then over time, through their sheer fame and popularity, other dirty dogs and silly gooses join them.
Oh my goodness.
Until they form an epic Lord of the Rings style army.
Could you imagine?
Yep.
All 5 of you listening right now could be part of that.
Just don't be the insert animal name here.
Yeah.
So that means that we're gonna have to add in like a third.
I feel as though with the silly goose and the dirty dog, we've got to have something about overcoming their differences too.
That's true.
Maybe that's the first part of the show.
There's probably an episode where the dog does something really silly, and then the goose falls in some dirt and becomes a dirty goose and a silly dog.
That's just a natural, though, you know. But
wait, it's got to be an episode. It's kind of a
I guess
bonding
TV
moment
is unrealistic sometimes.
Okay, so that one is kind of our joke. That was our joke TV that we would write. But wait, what would we actually? What are we really?
What's
like
our passion?
If you had
really?
one stab at showbiz for both of us, obviously we're co-writing this. What do we write about? What do we make?
I feel like we've been doing some stuff that has more of a serious tone.
Uh-huh.
But I don't know if ours necessarily have a serious tone, you know?
That's true.
I think... do you think like a sitcom type thing? Something...
I think that I am generally more of a humor-based person. Absolutely. I do think those would be hard to come up with in an original fashion, though.
That's true.
Do you have an idea?
I'm trying to think of something like that I know. Oh. What if there's this janitorial crew? This custodial crew. Made up of...
Don't forget the custodial.
Yeah. I have a beef. Everyone likes to say I know I said janitorial first, but I didn't really mean it.
Yeah.
Everyone says, "Oh, you do janitorial stuff. You're a janitor." No, I'm a custodian, and I think with that comes a greater sense of almost responsibility. Like you're a custodian of the building rather than I'm a janitor who just cleans the building. There's a little bit more ownership with the term custodian.
To fill you guys in at home, Williams is a custodian for BYU, and not just a custodian. He used to be.
I climbed the ranks.
He's climbed the ranks. He's as big as, dare we say his name, Bry?
Yeah. Because I know that you all know him.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, some of you might.
He's pretty famous,
to this podcast,
and he's pretty big up. I mean, I've never met Bry, but I've heard his name a number of times, and so he seems to me like he's a pretty high up there type of guy.
He's a supervisor, and
absolutely
now
Williams is a supervisor. Well, don't forget to mention that you were a student assistant, and then you were. Wait.
I started just as a student custodian, like we all do,
like everyone does, you know.
And then I went to student lead, you know.
Mm.
Then I went to student assistant, which sounds like it should be like under a student lead.
Mm.
However, that just means I was the assistant to the supervisor. And now, look at me. I've dropped the student title, and now I'm simply a supervisor. Because I'm no longer a student, you know.
Them's the big leagues, Williams. Them's the big leagues.
Well, I know.
I still love it when you got promoted from student lead to student assistant.
And it felt like
it sounded like you got a demotion, yeah.
I'm so sorry, Williams.
Okay, so for our show then, here's what I'm thinking, Williams. Here's the good thing. We've got a lot of source material here. We've got a lot of things to go off of, too. Here's what I'm thinking. We've got ourselves a philosophy student.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's new.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Kind of crazy. Where did I come up with that idea?
I don't know, but you must be really smart. Are you a philosophy student?
Williams? I only wish. I chose one of those easy professions, namely business. Here's what I'm thinking.
All right.
He's a philosophy student, and he goes to work every day. Super consistent, solid dude, but he's surrounded like half the team. Now, first off, if Williams' team listens to this, this isn't because he's said anything about any of you guys. This is because in almost all good comedies, 50% of the people act completely rational and 50% of the people act like absolute idiots.
Whoa, those are strong words now. I hope you aren't implying something
about
the people I know.
No, I'm not implying anything about the people you know. Because that wouldn't be within my realm. It's only up to you to imply that.
So you're wanting me to say
Yes. Williams, I'm hoping to ruin all of your personal relationships. So here's the thing, though. There's several routes we can go here.
Okay.
Either he's surrounded by like super incompetent people who just do crazy shenanigans all the time.
Or he's the super incompetent one.
Yeah. Or he's the super incompetent one. Or, third option, we talked about people being delusional or crazy. Perhaps he spends all his time thinking about philosophy things, and not like normal philosophy things, like wild philosophy things while he's at work. So, go ahead, Williams. Build on that idea. That's my contribution.
I like that. It's funny that you're talking about like him being kind of crazy and weird and stuff, because we always joked with my boss Bry. I mean, he was my boss until I became a supervisor as well.
Now he's more like your coworker, Bry.
But we always tease him about having schizophrenia and that we are the figments of his imagination. So I imagine the TV series that goes along, and at the very end, it turns out he's just a patient at a mental hospital.
In a psychiatric hospital.
Yeah.
Oh, that's kind of wild. Here's what you have to do, okay?
But he could be like a philosopher type guy where he's like, really delving into these problems and like using his coworkers to like try and figure out these philosophical problems type of thing.
Yeah. I love that. Okay, so supervisor who runs tests on his employees, just like for philosophy's sake.
Philosophical tests.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I like that. I like that one a lot.
Helps them figure out ethical problems.
But at the very end, there has to be some huge blow up. Have you ever been reading a book or watching a movie where like everything is going wrong and you're like, I can't believe this is happening. Like this is crazy. That can't have happened. Did that really happen? Yeah. There has to be something on that level of magnitude, and then the big reveal at the end, which isn't. This has been done before, so this isn't completely original. But the bigger reveal at the end is that he's in a psychiatric hospital.
And that they're all
figments of his imagination.
Or they look kind of like nurses or something.
Yeah, that can totally be a thing. But there's also somebody studying him who's a doctor of psychology, but it's different.
Of philosophy?
Well, but philosophy professors or people don't study psychiatric patients.
But they could.
Which, maybe he would have to be more of a psychology person, because that's more psychology's realm. Philosophy's more like, what is this table? But there's a thin enough line, though.
Yeah, I mean, they do have the common roots, you know?
Yeah. Well, a lot of them delve with the like issues of reality. I mean, you have your bachelor's degree in philosophy.
I hope I know.
So if you were to run experiments on people, obviously don't ever do this. Like, quick disclaimer, don't try this at home.
All of a sudden, all the people around me realize I've been running tests this whole time.
Wait a minute, Williams, what did you say to me the other day?
Slyly manipulating them.
How does one do that with philosophy? Because that's what I'm thinking about. Is psychology is like the study of human behavior, right?
Right. Well, yeah.
Philosophy is more like...
Well, there's different branches of philosophy. So,
absolutely.
Like, what I'm thinking, more along those lines, is something probably leaning more towards ethics, the ethics portion of philosophy, and present them with kind of a trolley. You're familiar with the trolley problem?
Yeah.
Yeah, we played that game where there's a game out there where you actually like make a trolley problem.
Yeah.
With really random stuff. Yeah, trial by trolley. Hilarious. But like have something like that and make it so that they have to either choose an option to hurt this coworker or those multiple coworkers, but they kind of seem like they deserve it, but this one doesn't. Sort of a thing, something like that.
I think you absolutely should have that. I think that's one of
There's some other philosophy behind stuff.
So there's several things you need to do. You need to establish characters.
Mm-hmm.
So
we got the philosopher.
But is the philosopher guy, is he low key like evil, or is he just kind of ridiculous?
Neutral?
Yeah, like he kind of does like bad things ish. Because what you're talking about sounds to me like he'd be more like an evil type person, where he like actually messes with their head and has potential for people to get hurt. Another counter to that.
Just because he messes with the head doesn't mean he's evil.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about morals. He could run a test on everyone where there's like a specific tool that he already broke, and you know the classic like put it back together just enough so the next person who touches it breaks it.
Oh.
Yeah.
That'd be a funny episode.
So he could do that, and he could run a test on each one of them and see how each of them react, and you can get like increasingly silly things and different things like for how you have them break it and so on and so on. And he sees which ones put it back together to leave for the next person, and which ones like are like, hey, I broke this or whatever.
I think that would be a lot of fun. We do need to make sure that these side characters have...
Oh, they have to have personalities themselves.
Yeah, and absolutely. They gotta be unique from each other too. They can't be just Sharon.
Yeah.
Because this has so much potential for great B plots.
Yeah.
Like the A plot, of course, is going to be, more philosophy. This guy messing with people. But also the B plot of these guys actually, like, being messed with.
Yeah.
And doing their own things together.
And the character development that they have in one direction or the other. You have to have one that has negative character development.
100%.
Like, you have to have some that have positive.
But you have to have at least one. Much they're just...
yeah, you have at least one that's like, just like, before I took this job, everything was going great. Like, I was on my way to go to Harvard or whatever the heck. And then they're like, just because of these tests.
Just fails utterly.
Yeah, but it can't be tragic. It's got to be funny.
I mean, it all depends on your point of view, Starks.
Fair.
What's tragic to you?
Anime.
Well, then he's gonna get. It will be live action. Then it'll turn him and him alone into an anime character.
I'll have no part in this creation. My resignation is on the table, Williams. Have fun being homeless. This is our split. This is what happened. And you've got the facial hair.
Well, I'm glad we got it done early.
Yeah, that's fair. May as well get it done now before we actually make it big. Well, did you see the numbers on our last episode, Williams?
Oh, my goodness.
So many.
Are
there even that many people on the earth?
What was that?
Are there even that many people on the earth?
Probably. I assume that each and everyone listened to it multiple times.
No, probably.
So, yeah. I mean, I think we're doing pretty good.
I agree. All right, Williams, this is your train.
I think that is a great idea. I think that's the one. You know, our first one was very copy-paste.
Yeah.
Not bad, but copy-paste. Little generic. The second one, was that the goose one? No, what was our second?
Yeah, the goose one was kind of more of a joke, just playing off the show. But yeah.
Oh, it was very real to me.
No.
But I feel like this one.
This one's our ticket. This is our ticket to Hollywood, Williams. This is how we make it in showbiz.
It's got the nuance. I see it as the right themes throughout. It's mentally invigorating.
Oh, stimulating.
Mentally stimulating enough to where it's going to be consistently interesting, and you're kind of learning stuff maybe.
Fair.
Just enough, like some general philosophical, not tests, but problems, I guess. And kind of getting some of that basis. You know, you learn. I think why people did you see the show The Good Place?
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
I think people like that so much. Well, for one, the characters were a lot of fun and how they interacted.
Yeah.
But also, it was consistently looking at different angles of how to approach these ethical, philosophical problems. And I think people like that a lot.
You know, it would actually be kind of interesting. So to take a little bit of a deeper turn in the show.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you guys have listened this long, congratulations. We are just about to have a deeper discussion, and who knows how long it'll last. I think, honestly, that there are a lot of people who don't actually take time to think about their logos or what they actually believe happens in the world. And I think everybody has kind of a base understanding, but I think there's a lot of times that people don't follow an if-then in their own thought process type of thing.
Like a consequential process?
Yeah, well, it's like... And it's not necessarily that I think people are not intelligent or anything like that, and I think there are a lot of people that do. I think there are just plenty of people that don't. And I think it's a situation where there are a lot of people who, like, for example, they'll prioritize certain things, and they never think that the reason why I'm prioritizing this is because it represents also, hear the sound of Williams' crisp new Dr. Pepper.
Sorry, it had to be done.
Well,
we're getting into a deep discussion, so I needed to crack it open.
I mean, for you guys at home, it is 12:15 right now. We're doing a night recording for our second one. But my point is that I really think that there are a lot of people who are unaware of their own logos in large degree. And it's not that people can't talk about what they believe in, but I think that oftentimes we make decisions that represent core beliefs that we ourselves don't know that we hold.
Or even understand necessarily the reason why we believe that.
Yeah.
I think that's valid. I think people are yearning to justify maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe justify their underlying beliefs. I don't know if understand them somewhat maybe. But I think they would rather justify.
Yeah. Where people don't necessarily take the time to take a look at their belief window. That's a quote from inspirational speaker guy. But they don't take a look at their belief window. They just kind of believe specific things.
Well, it takes a lot deeper approach than a lot of people are willing to take to actually go back and question whether their beliefs are really rational or if there's some foundation in them. They'd rather just take a foundation from somewhere else and if it fits their belief enough to just stick it underneath and say, my belief's supported.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to change your beliefs. It's a tough thing.
100%.
In any case. And so I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense. It's a lot easier to just believe what your parents believed than it is to actually take time for rational thought. Because when you start really seeking out right from wrong, you run into all sorts of issues. You know, there's like relativism, for example. Like, it's hard to tell exactly what's right and what's wrong. So moral relativism is like a reference of kind of... actually, I'm going to pass that off to you if you've got an easy one. Because I can't explain it, but I'm going to be very wordy.
Major now? I mean, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Relativism generally is just... Well, there's different kinds, but let's talk about cultural relativism.
Yeah.
Saying, well, different cultures believe a little differently, and who's to say that any of them are wrong?
Yeah, it's kind of a everybody's kind of right sort of thing.
Yeah, and it's just what culture you're from that kind of determines what's right and what's wrong.
And I think that that's a very prevalent belief system in our day today.
Well, we're
I don't think
so
it's a terrible
democracy
thing.
Focused that no, it's not in and of itself horrible to.
No,
yeah.
I don't think it's bad. I just think if you believe that like one thing is the way, and you suddenly have to start seeking. What am I trying to say, guys? It's too late. I had a train of thought, and I lost it when I lost moral relativism.
What I'd like to add is, well, it's not bad to consider relativism to a certain degree. Well, if you follow it to its logical conclusion, it kind of self-deteriorates. Because then, if you don't believe everyone's right, then no one's right at the same time.
Well, to clarify, I wasn't saying relativism is a terrible and evil thing, and people that believe it, because I in general, in a way, follow moral relativism, where I believe, honestly, I think that most people are like at least good people, and when I say most, that doesn't mean everybody. Obviously, there are bad people out there, but in my experience, personally, with the people around me, most people seem to be trying their best, right? And so I wasn't throwing moral relativism out there as a bad example. I was trying to make an example of why it would be hard to pursue different belief systems, because belief systems are so different. Oh, that's what I was trying to do. Is like, and you see this in philosophy of old time. I only took one philosophy class, so I'm no Brandon Williams.
Stop.
But you have that one old philosopher who basically believed the only way to truly pursue philosophy and truth is to completely separate yourself from your surroundings and basically your
Descartes?
senses. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The train of thought with that, and other philosophers around his time were kind of thinking somewhat similar things in a way, but they wanted to find a system that across the board would be true for everyone. And so they thought, because they were fairly religious, and so I can kind of see where they're going with it. Like, God is not going to put people here on the earth if they don't have the ability to find out what He wants them to do morally. Because God's going to make it so everyone has the opportunity to know for themselves what is moral and what they should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so Descartes' like, well, okay, I'll separate myself from everything and then kind of rebuild.
Yeah, because I remember that. He was trying to establish truth subjectively, or objectively, by separating himself from everything.
Faulty.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, I remember now.
But a lot of them of that era wanted to find what truth can be found by everyone.
Yeah.
Like what moral principles can be. Yeah.
That makes sense. See,
at least to my understanding.
Well, I'd say your understanding is probably pretty sound.
Yeah, we'll see.
For one, I trust you.
I appreciate that.
But to my original point, I just feel like And obviously there's a reason for this, because it's a lot easier to come up with blanket statements and blanket morals than it is to pursue every action and every single like moral dilemma to its logical conclusion. Because logical conclusions are hard and they can take a really long time to get to for certain things. Like down to like you give one person money, whereas you turn another person down, and you kind of try and review what made the difference. Right. And sometimes maybe you're just having a better day, or you have more money that day, or whatever the heck. But sometimes you might think, well, that person looked like someone I know, and it reminded me of him. And following that logical path is difficult in any case.
Oh yeah. The thing in philosophy, they have you do little logical proofs. To kind of trace, they'll give you statements like, if A, then B, and then and you're trying to reach some sort of conclusion, see if you can from the premises. The thing about us as human beings is we're not perfectly logical individuals. We have that emotional component, which I think is part of what makes us human.
Yeah. And
we shouldn't disregard that. However, we need to balance it with logic. So we shouldn't just go one way or the other, but be a mix. And so some of those things, like you were saying, like, it's not necessarily logical to go, that guy looks like a guy I know, so I'm going to be a little easier on him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so the blend's important. And look, that guy could be a great guy. And so you doing that, even though it may not be logical, doesn't necessarily lead you to a bad conclusion.
Because it's all up to chance, obviously.
Yeah, to a certain degree.
Well, to a certain degree, absolutely. Interesting. Is that the end of our tangent? Do we have more to tangent about?
Well, it depends how much you want to go into ethics.
Well, here's my thing. I definitely feel like we could probably talk about this for quite a while. I think we'll have other episodes about it.
Well, fair enough, yeah.
But
a lot of stuff goes back to morals.
Here's what started me on that, is what if this philosophy professor, by creating dilemmas for these guys, and it obviously has to be in a way that's humorable every time.
Oh, yeah.
This philosophy professor is creating dilemmas intentionally for his employees. And that could be also part of the B plots, is you can have employees talking together and they'd be like, I swear, he is either incredibly incompetent or he's trying to make our lives miserable. And they'll have little lines like that and stuff.
He's an evil genius. Or
yeah.
Just
yeah. And nobody knows that he's secretly just an evil genius. But are we going with evil genius or kind of well-meaning-ish misunderstood guy? I see merit to both.
I think we could even walk that line a little bit.
Where he crosses too far sometimes?
Right, and he's an emotional guy to a certain extent. He tries to be logical, but he's like, I feel really bad for this one person. They're going through this rough thing, so I'm going to try and make it better.
And usually he'll have to make it worse.
Yeah, something like that. So sometimes he's trying to help certain people. Other times
So he came up with a name for Big John.
Mm-hmm.
The dogs and the gooses don't need names.
Well, yeah, it's who they are.
They're very symbolic in and of themselves. What's this guy's name? It's got to be kind of this silly smart guy name.
Right. We could kind of partially at least name him after a philosopher. But I'm trying to think of how. Would we tie that into the last name or make it part of the first name? We pull Bill and Ted, just call him Socrates. It's spelled like a philosopher, but but it's pronounced horribly. Instead of Rene, his name is Reen. Instead of Rene Descartes, just Reen.
I kind of like that actually. Socrates.
How would you say Aristotle if you were to say that wrong?
Socrates. Aristotle.
Aristotle.
You could call him Ari.
Ari.
And then everyone's and he's like, it's short for Aristotle. And then everyone's like, oh, that's crazy. Is that Italian? He's like, I think so. It's like a play off of that the whole time.
He has it on his shelf. You'd have to have a book full of Aristotle's complete works,
Yeah, I like that. I like Aristotle. Everyone calls him Ari.
Yeah.
And what's his last name? Johnson? Like
just a plain.
Just like a plain white bread name.
I kind of like that, you know. Just
Aristotle Johnson.
Yeah.
The third.
It turns out he's the first, but.
Ari. Well, so here's what I'm thinking. So Ari, throughout the show, what he does is he's going to basically create experiments that unpack people's inner logos, which is why we started on that whole tangent. So, like, essentially he'll do things, and then he'll ask them about it, and he'll come across sometimes as, like, this wise teacher. You know how, like, in shows where they're, like a Master Wayne, why do we fall?
Oh, yeah, like, there's the wise mentor giving you
so we
words of
can
wisdom.
get back up again. Sorry, I just had to do my...
Of course, yeah.
Just real quick for Benj, I'm going to get nice and close to the microphone. Some men just want to watch the World Band.
And that was for you, Benj.
Yeah. He loves it when
you
I do that.
Specifically, yeah. One of our faithful listeners.
Every episode so far.
Which is saying something.
So there's times where he has like this mentor. So basically, they'll have this situation where he creates some sort of dilemma, however that's pronounced. And then, as it unfolds, he goes and talks to them individually, and he's like, what can you learn from this? And then he like kind of unpacks their logos and why they did what they did, and their belief system.
And in some way it has to be fundamentally wrong.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is you could have a broad variety of belief systems represented in your staff, and so they could each kind of represent the faults of each belief system. In
That'd
a funny
be
way.
Cool, yeah.
That would be pretty interesting. It would take a lot of orchestration, episode to episode, but it would be pretty interesting to see people interact with completely different belief systems in like basic fundamental ways. And honestly, the best type of shows like this are those that actually represent real life, just to a little bit more ridiculous degree.
Which I think is definitely accomplishable with the premise that we're setting.
Yeah. I think I like it.
Yeah, I think we got something going there.
What do you think, Williams? Is this where we stop? Is this where we're kind of leaving it up to the imagination, or do we build more on that?
I think that is solid. When the Hollywood executives come, they're going to be so excited to hear this. I don't know what they're going to do.
Well, this just means that you better get on writing the books. That's all I'm saying.
So now we're tying it to the books.
Well, we already made this plan. Remember, this is part 2 of our plan to write the books.
I thought that was a separate idea.
Well, there you go, being silly again. I mean,
you're the silly one.
I am. Well, you do silly things sometimes, but I am the silly goose.
And I'm the dirty dog. We'll catch you folks probably next week. Hopefully next week. I assume next week. As always, we appreciate you listening. And never forget to assert dominance, impose your will. But also remember our motto. Listen if you want, or not. We don't care. We'll see ya.
And goodbye.